Hey there friends, I'm Leo, and today we're going to be talking about minerals. Take them on the map using your pick, throw it all in the smelter, start pumping the big balloon thingy, and done. You got yourself a nice little bronze ingot that can be used to make other objects. I still gotta do any sort of recipe or item that is made with those ingots though, but you can have it on your inventory. You can look at it. Look how pretty it is. So to make this whole system work, it took around 2 weeks of a lot of hard work where I made an animation scheme where you have 3 separate objects that play the same animations at the same time. I added a logic to these animations using Unreal Montages. I made a mechanic that stitches these animations together based on what you are currently pressing. And then the minigame itself using a widget. To make it all run like clockwork, I really planned how each stage of the minigame would work, how the animations would blend, and everything else. So this was by far the most complex animation mechanic that I have ever done. And I am very happy with the final result. It's all running really well, and in my humble opinion, it's very intuitive with the new player input system. You will always see exactly what actions you can make and what button you need to press to make them. So let's get started. Let's first talk about how the smelter works step by step, and then I'm going to walk you through each element that makes this minigame work. First, you gotta pick up your building hammer, and with it, you can not only start placing buildings, but you can also put down crafting or refining stations, like the smelter. To be able to smelt anything down, you first need coal. Coal is usually on more steep areas like the base of mountains or some steeper portions of a grass field. So after collecting your coal, you gotta go back to your furnace and press F. This is going to make you spend 1 of your coal to add 25% fuel. Fuel goes down by 1% every minute, give or take, and you can add more coal until you reach 5% fuel. Okay, so now that the furnace is turned on, we can press E on it to start smelting down some ore. Starting the interaction, the camera is going to change so you can see the ingredients on the pot a little bit better. So then you can press E to change the ingredient on the right and Q to change the ingredient on the left. When you swap ingredients, it's also going to change the little 3D model that's on the pot so that it's the ore that you just chose. And the cool thing here is that if you don't have this ore, instead of showing the physical version of that ore, it is going to display this little red hologram here, like when you try to place a building but you don't have enough resources. And depending on the combination that you choose your ore, you can smelt different ingots. For example, copper plus tin becomes bronze, copper plus scrap metal becomes brass. All of this is based on real life, by the way. Here's something I'm planning on the different ingot combinations that you can have and how they're gonna work. Some ingots are gonna be used for specific things like cables or boats, and others are gonna be used for weapons and gear. But then you ask, what if I don't have enough ores or any ores at all with me? Well, then you gotta leave the furnace, explore a little bit and find some ores. Could be copper, could be tin, or could be scrap metal. After you gather your ores, now we can choose whatever combination we want and start smelting by clicking with the mouse button. By clicking, you're going to confirm your selection and the character is going to go to the bellow to start the minigame. Here, if you change your mind, you can still press the right mouse button to cancel the minigame and swap materials. But if you want to start, then you just gotta click again to jump on the bellow. Now, inside of the minigame itself, it basically works like this. You have this little chimney here, which is very ugly, by the way, I know. This is just a placeholder, but it already has the mechanics I want, so it's already working. So when you click with the mouse, the character is going to pump the bellow down, and this little green area down here is going to go up with the wind. If you let go of the mouse button, the character is going to let go of the bellow, which is going to make the green area go down. The key to this minigame is that you gotta control the wind on the bellow to properly heat up the ore on the right area, marked by this red dot, which changes position after a couple of seconds every time. You gotta do this until you reach 100% of the smelting, represented by these little sidebars here. Oh, and this white box here represents the air inside of the bellow. When you click and hold, it won't have infinite air to bring the green area up, so you're going to need to time this right and know when to let go of the mouse click. If you want to, you can also just spam click and it also works, and sometimes honestly you gotta do that to hold the green area from falling down too much. if the minigame gets too hard. And speaking of which, the spam click gave me a sea of trouble on the animations at first. It would all work fine, but as soon as I started spam clicking, then it broke all of the animation flow. But now it's all polished and it works. No matter how much you click spam, it is gonna work, I hope. So there you have it. Once you finish the minigame, this little animation is going to play where the character is going to pour the hot liquid into this ingot mode, giving you the ingot and removing the ore. And this is it, the minigame that it took me so long to make. I tried to make this as intuitive as possible so that everyone can quickly learn how the minigame works, and all of the animations and everything on this minigame were made with intuitiveness in mind, with being very easy to understand and to learn. Oh, and you want to know a really cool detail too? During the smelting minigame, if you pay close attention, you can see that whatever ore you choose is going to smelt away and the bubbly liquid is going to rise up. This is going to go alongside the bars that you are filling during the minigame. This is a detail that gave me some trouble to set up, and now with all of the particle effects and lights, it's not that easy to notice, so I wanted to point that out. To go over the minigame in detail, let's start by the animation scheme. For all of this to work, I made a new object with a new skeleton, which is the bellow, and alongside that, there's also a stick with the pan here, which has its own bone. This object is not tied with the player in any way, shape, or form, but all of the animations on it are unique and play separately from the player. And then I have the player, with the skeleton I'm already using for all of the animations normally. What I did then was I created animations with similar names, only changing from smelter to doggo, and one by one, these animations were made to be completely synchronized. At the end of it, I had a bunch of animations and it got pretty confusing to organize and to export them. Oh, and I also made a third object, which admittedly has less animations than the other two, but it's still in sync when pouring the liquid. This third object is only made for the liquid and also has some logic for it to be empty or full. From Blender, I exported all of the animations for the two separate objects and made two separate Unreal Animation montages. These would have the same animation sequences and logic. Montages are essentially a more complex animation scheme where you can have a bunch of single animations being played with some sequence logic. These can have, for example, looping sections, which can be very useful. Down here you see all of the individual animations, each one in their area. Then these marks over here are functions that I fire inside of the smelter logic. A lot of it is being guided by the animation. There are some marks that play particles, some of them play sounds, and some of them change the smelter phases. The animation system does not work by itself, but it helps guide the animations to that looping state, which helps greatly. Then, during the looping state, it just waits for the player input to go to the next state. For the smelter system to work, it basically functions like the woodcutting minigame we already have on the game. When you get near it, a component inside of the player is going to check and see if that is an object that you can interact with. If so, it is going to send a message to that object so it shows the action that you can make. Like the insert coal message, for example. You pressing the interaction button is going to make it so that this component sends a message to the interacted object, then starting the logic on the smelter or any custom objects that we might have in the future. Inside of the smelter blueprint, there's this whole handling of the player input based on the different states of the minigame. Everything being managed by this enumeration here, which has all of the different smelter stages. Then the whole mechanic can easily be managed and be input driven. Now inside of the minigame itself, all of the logic to make it work is happening inside of the widget itself, which is nothing more than a Unreal Engine UI element. This widget is responsible for calculating the different aspects of it, like the red dot, the gravity of the green area, or the lift when you are blowing air on it, and then the widget is going to send messages back to the smelter if it was a success or if it was a fail. There is also this integer value here that is being responsible for making the whole minigame more difficult. This value is going to increase with every time you smelt successfully, and with each successful hit, you will also gain more ingots. So the better you play, the more ingots you're gonna receive. But in case you lose, you will also lose your ores and you are not gonna receive any ingots. Then the difficulty counter resets back to 0, like in a Fable 2 minigame, for example. Depending on the ores you choose and what ingot you want to make, it is going to start the minigame with a much harder difficulty due to it being a more complex ingot. The idea here is that at the start of the game, some ingots are going to be nearly impossible to smelt down. And then I'm going to work on a skill system where every time you smelt, you are going to gain experience on smelting. And then you're going to gain perk points which will make smelting way easier, which are going to allow you to smelt down way harder ore combinations very easily and smelt for way longer, getting a lot more extra ingots. Or if you want, you can try to smelt very hard ingots, and through trial and error, you might get an advanced ingot very early on without gaining the experience to smelt it. It's all up to you. Well, there's still a lot of stuff that I have done these past few weeks which did not even fit in this video, like painting the smelter itself or how I make the little input thingies that show up when you are nearby the interaction objects. But we are all out of time for this video. If you're new here, I made a full playlist with my whole journey in making my dream game. So subscribe if you want to not only see how I got here, but also see the rest of the journey and where Sparkmutts is going to go in the future. Also, special thanks to Diego, my Discord moderator and friend, for helping me out on the game design for this minigame. The game also has a Steam page, so go there to put the game on your wish list and play it as soon as it enters open alpha or early access. Also, check out our Sparkmutts Discord server. There you can talk with me directly and we can talk about the game or the ideas you guys have for it. With every new video I post, I'm also going to send 5 keys to the closed alpha we are having right now on Steam in the Discord server, so check that out if you want to start smelting some ingots right now. I'm Leo, signing out.